so many of you might have heard me say this before. Run the football. That's what it's going to be about. Stopping a run and running the football. Not all runs are the same, and it's a very complicated thing. But when you look at the weather, the wind has picked up about a mile per hour, and gusts went from about 16 to 24 as per NFL weather. Now, we don't know what the rain's going to be like. Is it going to be drizzle, going to be heavy downpour, is it going to be on off? I don't know. It's going to be something. They say definite. So this season is going to be about running the football. Now, I read all the comments. I love the comments. It means so much that people take their time and their heart and their minds and put it out there. I read them all. I don't get to all of them. I like to. I'm trying. But a bunch of people are saying, we're going to lose if the weather's bad. And I said at the beginning of the season, this season would be determined by the offensive line, inside run game, how we play in bad weather. And I said that week 18 is probably going to be pivotal. And it looks like it's going to be that way if we can take care of business here. So I'm going to break down the Bengals, how they played against Cleveland, how they played against them for context, show some stuff from last week, but overall look at the run game and what it's going to take to win. And break it down with lots of graphics. I'm going out with the kids to see Sonic 3. They dragged me for Sonic 2, and I loved it. So I'm happy to go. I can't wait to be with the kids. So I'm going to make sure I do this thing right so I don't screw it up, okay? So, guys, before I get into that, though, I like to be a man of my word. And I kind of dropped the ball a little bit. One of my members had said, hey, man, I thought we were going to get special content. And it was my intention. I was doing it, but my sponsors kind of cut things back, and I had to take over all the tech work. And this thing's very stressful for me. Getting in front of the camera just makes me freak out. And then learning the tech stuff, if you see me, I screw up the tech stuff. So it's been very hard for me to get my footing. But I want to say thank you so much to my members, to BG who just joined, Eric Hood, Jim Barron, Phil Jones, Jeffrey Frogue, John Elahad. I'm probably screwing that up. Hooked Up Joe comes on my live. Christopher Jones, Jay Myers, Brian Gugger. Brian's been like my tech guy in the background helping me out with stuff. And of course, Derek, who started this whole thing. He just joined. And I want to say I apologize and let you know that I will definitely have content for you guys in the offseason when it gets a little bit slower. It's been a lot for me to handle. No excuse. I dropped my ball. I fumbled it, but I'm going to pick it up. So please forgive me, but I want to say thank you guys so much. Now, I want to read this little bit of an article. Came out 2 weeks ago. I meant to put it in, but I forgot. My brain is like a sieve. In addition, the ground and pound approach has opened up the field for the unstoppable Baker Mayfield-Mike Evans connection. As Mayfield settles into his role as director of a balanced offense, the former number one overall pick's numbers have exploded year 7. Wonder why? Mayfield has averaged fewer than 30 attempts per game over the past 4 weeks, but his yards per attempt figure has been a robust 9.3 during the span. This reflects an increased explosion in pass games, been powered from the defense's concentration on stopping the football. They were terrible year 1 and year 2 years ago running the football, but they've focused on it. They've utilized it. They've been effective at it, and now the defense has been focusing on it, and it's been opening stuff up. I'm not here to tell you what Tua is or he isn't, but any quarterback is better when they dial in on something other than the quarterback. Look at Allen. Think about Marino if he had a running attack. So the running attack is critical to all offenses, especially we're going to a new NFL cycle with the pass balance. But in a game like this, it is so critical. And it's not just the run, because the weather, the way it's coming down, the way the football being thrown is going to be suppressed by this wind. It's going to demand running football. But when it's wet, you can't really cut as much. Now, it's going to be the same thing for the defense, and it could lead to explosive plays by us in some breakdowns, but that's not consistency. You've got to have a level of consistency. And that's one of the biggest problems with this offense. You get off schedule, and then they dial in on the pass. The run game is critical. You can see how it played out against the 49ers. But you have to understand, not every defense, every situation is the same, and it changes this stuff. And I talked about it, evaluating in this imaginary space. So I want to get into what we did last week. Now, here is Next Gen Stats. Somebody also in the comments had said, Eichenberg came in and we ran only to the right. We couldn't run to the left. And that's not true. We had 2 explosive plays to the right, but really not much else. And if you take these 2 runs together, it's like 63 yards. 2 plays and the 155 at the end of the game. San Fran was definitely folding, and they realized the game was over. And it seems like, I'm not taking away from what we did, but you got to add a little context to that thing. But if you look to the left, and this could be good news tomorrow against the Browns, you could see how we had loads of consistent runs and some, not explosive plays, but semi-chunk plays. And that was behind Teron, that was behind Jones. And I'm going to show you the difference between zone blocking and gap blocking and how we performed. So you can see we struggled a little bit on the inside, but it was that C gap off to the left that really played huge for us, and obviously to the right on those 2 plays. But in a game like this, it's going to demand some more straight ahead inside running. This offensive line, I build at the beginning of the season, was so critical, but it's not just running to the edges. You've got to be able to run inside. I'm going to show you how the Bengals and Browns played each other. And you can see if you go check Tampa, how they play, it's a lot of stuff running inside. And this goes back to the Gailey concept to just run the football, keep their eyes on the run game, and you'll break a couple. And so we've got to run the football. McDaniel's got to dial up the plays, but he's also got to dial up the right plays, and we've got to block. So that is just a look at last week. Now, if you look at Chase Brown from the Bengals, they got a pretty big offensive line. Not so good in the pass game. There's reasons for that. But they're a pretty big front. And you can see here, they were able to chunk out smaller plays, 3 and 4 yards, and some 5-yard plays in the box, inside. And then they had 3 explosive plays to the edge. And the more you dial inside, the guys start pinching in, and that's how you break it to the edge. We're so pigeonholed into outside runs and the defense is vacating the center. It's worked on occasion, but in weather like this, it probably won't, especially when you got 2 really good edges on the side with Garrett and McGuire. And then they also have Bush and Hicks at the linebacker spot. So it's going to be this inside running stuff that is going to be so critical to our success. You can see here what they do. Not successful and huge runs, but they keep running it inside, and it's all in the box. And they had 1 explosive play inside. Now that was the first play of the game. You got to kind of take that off a little bit, but for them in the bad weather, it's going to be more conducive and more consistent. Now for us, you got Sealy, you got Campbell, and you got Brooks. Those 3 guys are big pieces to slow it down. They've got a pretty good offensive line, not like they did in the old days. Their left tackle is questionable. He'll probably not play. But they have from that left guard over to the tackle and some of those tight ends, they can block. And it's going to be better to get that field position and not get stalled out on 2nd and 10s and 3rd and 10s and whatever, 3rd and 8. And so the inside run game will be more conducive in this weather. And we have to emulate that to some degree. Now, here is the Miami's run blocking from last week. And you're going to see some interesting stuff. Teron, zone blocking, outside zone, inside zone. What it means is you're not moving to great spaces to get your guy. You're not pulling. You're not trying to get to the second level. It's all kind of guys that are near you or you're moving. They're kind of close to you. You're not really heavily on the move. Now, Teron's great at that, but you could see he struggled. But he was great at zone blocking. And I think some of that has to do with his bad knee because he's giving his all physically, but he just can't get to the places that he used to be able to get. Hill, I can't believe, had 19 blocks in zone and had a very good day. It's going to be critical this week. Smythe had some good zone blocking. But you can see at the bottom, Ingold, excellent, poor at gap blocking, but when you give him a guy and you dial up and charge him in there, he's doing a pretty darn good job. Great job. Second best in the team. And then you got Jones. Jones had the 2 holding calls, but when you add in Teron blocking like that, Jones blocking like that, and then you add Ingold and Smythe and then Hill, that's how you get these big plays, and it's going to be critical. But we ran a lot of C-gap outside. it's going to be a little bit more important to at least get that B gap. Even if it's not the A gap, at least the B gap. Because Garrett and, what's the other cat's name? McGuire, they're big guys, 271. They're going to probably play outside and let everything funnel inside because you don't want those explosive plays. They're probably going to trust in their D interior and the linebackers behind them. But we got to hit there to open up some kind of passing game. I mean, the screen's going to do really good if they're not in their right spot with the weather and with our speed. But we've got to dial their focus interior so we can pop a few runs to the edge. Just a few points is going to win this game. And if we don't win this game, it's going to say, hey, look, you got a poor team. You're in bad weather. You can't win this one. You play Bills in your division. Patriots are getting better. That's bad weather too. Jets, if they ever get to act together. But then you had the Steelers, the Bengals, KC, Pittsburgh. I think I said Pittsburgh already. Ravens. These are all bad weather stadiums that can present bad weather. And if you can't beat this team, then you're probably more than a few picks away, and it says some pretty poor stuff about our future. But I do think we can win. Now, it's going to come down to Wynn, Eichenberg, and Brewer. Because Lamb struggles at drive blocking too. And so that right side has to step it up. Brewer, you can see here, didn't have a great, this PFF, don't, sell the house on it, but it's pretty fairly close. He struggles in drive blocking. His movement skills are going to be hampered. He's going to have to slow down because of the wet ground. It's going to be more about size and strength. Wynn, some people were raving about him. He had 8, zone blocks and then 4 gap blocks. Eichenberg, somebody I was talking about, said he had a great day. He had a pretty good day in gap blocking. You can see it down here. Now, where is he? Where is Eichenberg? All right there. You can see he had a 66.9. It was a pretty good day, but his zone blocking is not so hot. So how they marry with Jones and Tehran, and then Smythe, if you can get another performance like this because he's been hot and cold in his blocking, it could go a long way. If we could do this, we'll win the game easily. But if we can't, and you're off schedule in this bad weather and this heavy wind, then you can have problems, get off schedule, and lose the field position battle and maybe lose this game. And you can see tight ends play a big part. Julian Hill, very, very poor in his run blocking. Like I said, Ingold was great in zone, but poor on the gap. So what does McDaniel dial up? Does he just run with what he runs, even though maybe it's not the most conducive? And if it doesn't work, then you're going to have to point the finger at McDaniel. But clearly, we had some very good zone blocking. We're going to need more of that from Brewer down to Lamb because you just can't run to one side, especially in weather like this. It's going to take lots of runs to get a few positions where maybe Hill can get over the top and two can put up or whatever. But it's got to be a across-the-board blocking. It's got to be consistent inside runs. Or else we're going to have major problems. The last little graphic I want to look at here is missed tackles. You see Jordan Brooks has got 4, but his run defense has been phenomenal. 33 stops. This guy's led the defense. But the missed tackles, again, can play. Calais Campbell, unbelievable, 8 missed tackles. Ramsey, 4. Holland, 5. Fuller's been pretty good, but he hasn't been in as much. Sealer, 4. Poyer, 3. May's not here. Walker's got 2. But Chop Robinson's got 4. So the missed tackles in this thing, the run defense to make sure they can't even get any kind of offense. And our run offense is going to determine this game. This is going to be a defensive game in bad weather. And you've got to bolster a sort of thin defense with some time of possession. And if you're talking about 24-mile-an-hour gusts, 16-mile-an-hour wind, and heavy rain, it's going to be hard to run to pass this football. And that's why running the football is going to be key, and even our screen game. I still don't see how we can lose. I see how we can lose, but there's no way on earth we should. We've got the pieces up front with Brooks, behind Sealer and behind Campbell. We've got the benefit of having the most amount of talent. One mistake, they don't really have anybody that's going to hurt you that bad. I mean, we have Achane, we have Mostert, we've got Hill, maybe Waddle plays Jonnu. So I just don't know how, if we play to our potential, we don't play sloppy, and we're able to run inside with some kind of consistency, we lose. But if we lose, it's going to be because we couldn't run that football, most notably probably inside. And we lose time of possession and our defense gets gassed, and then they start giving up yards in the run game. This should be a win. And if it's not, it is so devastating towards this build, towards the season, obviously. And so we've got to look at this game, whether you don't like the build, you like the build, or whatever. This is what it's about. You're in the AFC East, so you're going to have to go to Buffalo. It's going to be bad weather. If you want, the Patriots probably getting a little bit better. They are getting better. You're going to have to go to bad weather there. The Jets ever get their act together. But then you've got the Steelers, you got the Ravens, you got KC, you got the Bengals. You know, you've got teams that have loads of bad weather. And if you can't beat this gutted team with, a 4-string, 3rd-string quarterback, then what does it say about the future? It says that we're more than one draft away. But if we win here, it takes a little step forward that maybe we can handle this bad environments. Because you're going to get some games, unless you have home field advantage, that's going to be cold, it's going to be rainy, and it's going to be windy. And then what? So this is our point. The passing game we can't pass 35 times. Unless we're doing tons of screens, which we'll probably do anyway. So keep your eyes focused on the offensive line, how we call the game as far as our blocking schemes. We call enough of them, how our running backs, which are studs, perform, and this defense. And if we handle that, there's no way they can win. But if we don't and we lose, I think that's all she wrote. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Curtis saying, be well, go Fins. Curtis out.